Hello, Russ here, the founder of the Healing Center. I'm recording this on a place called Cabrillo Point, and it is, from what I understand, the furthest west in the continental U.S. you can get. So it's a little peninsula actually off of San Diego, and there's a lighthouse out here and a national monument, and so I'm visiting this today, and I just finished up teaching a Reiki workshop in San Diego this past weekend, so here I am. And you probably can't see it in the camera shot, but the ocean is behind me, and you might even be able to hear the waves coming across the shore. As I look behind the camera over there, I can see downtown San Diego. Really an amazing experience here. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you about a principle that we call a chunk principle of manifestation. And here's what I mean by that. And of course, any of you that have taken any of my workshops know that I like to keep things practical. So here's what I mean. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever used it and seen one used, and if not, you can probably just imagine it. But imagine a cooking pot, and you used to be able to get the ones that were made out of clear glass, so that the pot was clear glass and the lid was clear glass as well. So now let's say we take this pot and we put some water in it, and we put it on the stove, and then we apply heat to the water. So as we do that, if we watch, we will start to see water vapor condensate on the inside of the lid, right? So as the heat from the burner transfers heat into the water, steam is produced, and it gathers or condensates on the inside of the glass lid, correct? So as we watch this, and as we keep the heat to the water, more steam is produced, it collects on the lid, and then if we watch, what will happen is we will see water droplets start to form. So as the steam gets more and more and more, as it collects on the lid, what happens is it starts to form together into water droplets. And these water droplets get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then finally they're so heavy they fall from the lid and sploosh back into the water. That is a wonderful example of how the manifesting process works. It tends to manifest in our physical experience here in chunks. This video is really applicable at that stage where you've got your desires kind of mapped out, you've been visualizing your desires, you've been doing that inner work, you're taking whatever inspired actions that you can at this point, but maybe you haven't seen that desire show up here yet. So how do you think this happened for me? Where did this manifestation come from? Was there some, kind of magic bullet move that I did, or secret visualization that I did that poof, there it is? No, absolutely not. Think of this as that water droplet that has fallen from the lid of that pot. What I did was I applied heat to the water. How do you do that? You do the visualization. You take the inspired actions you can. You do all that work, right? And sometimes, especially in the beginning, when you're doing that work, you don't see the manifestation of it here yet. And I find, especially in the beginning, at that spot, it's really easy to get discouraged, maybe even disillusioned, frustrated, because you go, I'm doing all this work, but I'm not seeing any effects from the work. But just because you aren't seeing the effect of it here in your physical world doesn't mean that things aren't happening. When you're doing that work, what you're doing is applying heat to the water. As you do that, without fail, with mathematical certainty, steam is produced and it begins to condense on that lid of that pot, and those water droplets start to form. And as you maintain that environment, those droplets will get more and more and more, and you still haven't seen them yet, not here, right? More, and finally that they get so heavy that they drop, sploosh, and there it is, right? Have you ever noticed how, it's the old cliche, it never rains but it pours, right? And, whatever the case may be, it's like you see nothing, and all of a sudden you see kabang, 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 one right after the other, but then it stops, right? And you don't see anything anymore, right? Well, that's the chunk theory in play, because that process, it creates that process goes, the droplet gets larger and larger, and all of a sudden, kaploop, 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 right? So how do you think I created this? Every single day, that I do my visualizing, that I take whatever inspired actions that I can, that I use and I apply the process that we talk about in the course and in the manuals and the workshops, right? I apply those processes. I rely heavily, we talk about the 3 commandments, right? And the second one is persistence, right? Knowing that maybe I haven't seen it here yet, but that doesn't mean that things aren't happening. And that usually, I think probably all the time, but we'll say usually, when those manifestations happen, it's almost like they go poof and we go, whoa, where did that come from, right? We know exactly where it comes from. We don't manifest by accident anymore. Using these principles, when I use the principles, I can now manifest or create those with purpose, with a confidence and a predictability that I can keep creating more of those water droplets or experiences like this. So if you find yourself in a spot where you've been working and working and working, and maybe you haven't seen it yet, and there's this tendency to go, well, it's not working, where is it? Know that what's happening is that drop is building, that drop is building, and if you maintain that environment, the heat to the water creates the steam, condenses on the lid of the pot, that water drop will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden, poof, there it is. As I've mentioned to so many of you guys in our workshops, that we really focus on practicing what we're preaching and teaching and leading by example. Here's an example. At the end of this video, I'm actually going to throw in a few of the pictures and a few of the other video clips of my journeys here. And just to give you an example of the manifesting process in action, I use the same processes that are in the manuals and the workshops to create this. And I know if I can do it, I know if I can do it, you can too.